Alexis Nunes alongside Nate Saunders. Nate is finally back from his fabulous, it looked like almost a vacation, Nate, in Miami for the Miami Grand Prix. I know you said it's going to be hard for any other race to top the Miami GP, but we're back in Barcelona this week. I'm so jealous because you're actually physically there whilst I'm in London. Barcelona, Spain. Interesting spot for Mercedes. We know that you did predict probably some upgrades that will be much, much welcome. So could we finally see a good weekend from Mercedes?
Yeah, I mean, it depends on what we mean by good weekend now for Mercedes, because this is one of the places where teams tend to bring upgrades, and it's very close to a lot of the teams' European bases, and it's where we start to see the really aggressive upgrades of these cars really start to ramp up. The issue Mercedes have, first and foremost, is that the other teams, especially Ferrari and Red Bull, are also making those jumps. They're making those improvements. So Mercedes might improve a lot over the next few races, but we might not actually see, it relative to the other cars. They might still stay the same gap behind. So this is going to be quite interesting for Mercedes. Clearly, the main issue they've got to solve is that porpoising issue. And we're coming back to Spain now, where we went testing. It's one of the first times we really saw that issue rear its head. And that was the first time we thought, well, what is this weird phenomenon that all the cars are doing? And then it was in the next test that we saw that Mercedes really were struggling with it. So that's the main thing they've got to get their heads around. But it's not going to be a quick fix. And one of the interesting points right now is, if these upgrades don't show the success that Mercedes want them to, at what point do they start changing their philosophy around this car? Because they went with a really radical design. We thought maybe we were seeing some improvements in Miami, and then in the race they kind of were just back to being comfortably third. So it's going to be an interesting weekend. I can't see a huge step forward being made. The testing form that we saw should be fairly similar this weekend. I think there might be some slight changes, but really they're kind of comfortably there third. I think everything's going to be on how bad the car looks in terms of driving. So interesting weekend. It's a good weekend to watch the onboards of those Mercedes cars, I think.
And you mentioned, of course, the testing that Mercedes had in Barcelona. And I remember that Lewis had some pretty damning words to say about it. And I said, oh, it's Lewis. Don't worry. He'll pull himself together. But that obviously hasn't been the case. But despite all of that with this car, someone who does keep improving seems to be George Russell, on the other hand. So top 5 for our boy?
Yeah, Russell's been really impressive. I think I said to you at the start of the season in our preview that I thought it would take a while for Russell to get up to speed in the Mercedes, and I've been completely wrong on that, because he's been actually one of the most consistent drivers on the grid this year. Pretty sure he's finished in the top 6 at every race so far, so I could see it happening. The interesting thing with this question that people playing Pick'em are going to have to pick is, I think that the cars are really going to finish in order of teams in this. It's going to be Ferrari and Red Bull at the top, and then you're going to have the Mercedes. So 5th should be the quickest Mercedes. So if you're saying Russell finishes top 5, then you're kind of saying he finishes ahead of Lewis. And given the way some of the previous races have gone, you would back that. I think I'm going to say the same. I don't mean this in a derogatory way at all, but Russell's also been quite lucky in terms of safety cars. And he actually made his own luck in Miami by having a fantastic first stint. And then, when you do that, you're just kind of hoping, praying something happens, and it happened at the right moment for him. But he's been creating those opportunities for himself. And like you said, Lewis has been struggling. And I don't think Lewis is very happy with this car. And I think Russell's more used to driving a temperamental car from his time at Williams. Hamilton's probably more in the mindset of, I want a car that I can win races with straight away. So yeah, I think Russell can finish top 5 here. I think there's nothing to suggest that, he's overawed by driving against Hamilton, and his momentum's there, his form's there. So why not? Yeah, I'll say finishes top 5, and that could be ahead of Lewis Hamilton if the 4 cars ahead finish ahead as well.
Who knew that all the trials and tribulations George went through at Williams would prepare him for his first time at Mercedes? Let's talk about pole position now, because if we have a look at the stats as you have, we see how much of an important factor it is in determining the winner. So this time out in Barcelona, do you see the winner coming from pole position?
Absolutely. I think people talk about, so the next race is Monaco. People talk about how qualifying is key there, but Spain is one of the most important qualifying sessions of the year, because the conversion rate from pole position to the race is huge. I was actually just looking back at it now. The last time somebody didn't win from pole position, rather the last time Lewis Hamilton didn't win from pole position, because he's won this race just consistently since 2016. People remember he did start on pole in 2016, and then he and Rosberg had that collision, and that's when Max Verstappen won his first race, which was his first race at Red Bull. So that's how long you've got to go back to find a Spanish Grand Prix winner who didn't start on pole position. So I think the winner will be there, and I think that's why it's so important, that Saturday session. And we've seen that qualifying's been really close, especially with Max and Charles Leclerc. There's been tense in it every single time. So slight mistakes could be really costly this weekend.
And speaking of costly, we do see how some of those mistakes cost people points, and points everyone's grabbing points this time around. It's definitely not as clear-cut as we thought it probably would have been in past seasons. So which constructor do you see scoring the most points this weekend?
I'm going to say Ferrari, because I think we've kind of overlooked the Red Bull. First of all, the Red Bull reliability issues that we saw at the start of the year. There's always kind of that question mark there. And Imola, Ferrari kind of dropped the ball, but the problems there were all really their own making, with the drivers making mistakes. And we haven't seen anything that suggests that Ferrari has, an issue on that side in terms of reliability. We have with Red Bull. Miami, Sergio couldn't get past Carlos Sainz at the end, and I don't know. I think that as a unit, they're driving pretty well together if you take Imola out of the equation. So I would say Ferrari, but then we'll come to my winning prediction. I'm not sure they'll be on the top step, but I think they will be leaving with more points. But whether that is with 25 points for one driver, I don't think so.
With that said, then, who do you see winning the race? Is it going to be my boy Charles Leclerc again? Because I keep choosing Charles Leclerc every week, and I keep coming close, Nate. But what about this weekend?
So I'm going to save my Charles prediction for Monaco next week, his home race.
It would only be fitting.
Yeah, well, I mean, it would break the curse of Monaco for him as well. But I think right now I would say Max. I think he should qualify pretty well here. At the moment, Max, he's driving so well. When the car has finished the race, he's won. And he's just been fantastic this season. And I think what's interesting at the moment is the Red Bull car is getting better and better. And at the start of the season, it seemed like Ferrari were quite far ahead. And when we last were here in Spain, Ferrari looked really strong. That's when really the hype train started, was when we were in Barcelona. This time around, I think Red Bull's closed that gap up a bit. Like I said, there's still that reliability question. But if everything goes as it should, I can see this circuit suiting the Red Bull pretty well. And yeah, I think I would back, if it's between Max and Charles right now, I would give the edge to Max. And I think that's ultimately, I think this weekend is going to be on which driver makes the impact over the car, because the cars are really closely matched. So I'm going to say Max wins, but like I said, I think Ferrari will still have a strong weekend. So if I was predicting it, I'd probably give it the same podium we had in Miami, which was obviously Verstappen, Leclerc, Sainz. So Ferrari leaving with more points, but ultimately Red Bull on the top step at the end of the weekend.
All right. Well, thanks so much to Nate Saunders. Nate, have an absolute blast in Barcelona. Not like we're jealous or anything. And if you agree with Nate's picks, you can head on over to ESPN.com and get your picks in before Barcelona this weekend.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. And for more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for premium content plus live streaming, make sure to subscribe to ESPN Player.